Good morning, everyone. Are we still asleep? Do you need another espresso? I'll try again. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Better, there we go, thank you. And welcome to the House of Switzerland. I'd like to make sure you're in the right place because there's many rooms in this building. This is a session on potential of emerging technologies in Switzerland, organized by the Swiss Confederation and ETH Zurich. Are we in the right place? Yeah? Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. My name is Chris Lubkeman, and I have the privilege and the pleasure of being the leader of the Strategic Foresight Hub at the ETH in Zurich, and within the team of Joël Mazot in the Office of the President, and I'll be your host for today's event. Switzerland plays an extremely important, pivotal role as a cooperation partner for discovering, developing, and deploying current, emerging, and future technologies. With an outstanding landscape of higher education, I think most of us who live in Switzerland think and believe and know it's one of the best in the world, and a powerful synergy between academia and the private sector, Switzerland stands at a lighthouse of and for innovation. Its legal structures, political stability, and easy access to venture capital create an excellent environment for both groundbreaking research and its commercialization. The panel you'll be hearing today also covers that spectrum. Its compact geography transforms into another strategic asset, enabling seamless interdisciplinary collaboration that can fuel groundbreaking advances to solving some of the world's most difficult problems. How many of you are born Swiss? Put your hand up. How many of you are Swiss natives? Very high. I like how you put your hands really high. That's really fantastic. Yeah. Now, how many of you live in Switzerland by choice? No, not by choice. Wait, hey, come on. All right. Right. No, I think it's actually, we'll talk to you afterwards, all right? But I think it's actually a really important point because in addition to its professional allure, those of us who choose to live here can attest to Switzerland's captivating blend of an exceptional quality of life and its easy access to its technology transfer system. It is truly a magnet for global talent. It creates a dynamic, competitive, and cooperative hub where innovation can thrive, and we're very quite proud of this at the ETH. And it is a beautiful place to live. Now, our time together is going to be approximately 90 minutes. First, we're going to have the pleasure of hearing some opening remarks from two wonderful humans in our national leadership. Then I'll ask three of our guests to share a bit more of their work on some impulses, and then we're going to have a panel with three individuals after that. You are welcome to ask questions, and I'd ask when you ask questions, when I get to that point, to make them as clear as possible. 5-minute statements are not really all that helpful. But a very short question to the audience will be appreciated. Sound good? Yeah. Thank you. Very good. Joël knows how this. Exactly. Like in the Zoom world, we all did the thumbs up. We got that thumbs up, thumbs down. So that's what we're going to do. So first, I would like to introduce a German-Swiss chemist, university lecturer, and since 2019, the Swiss State Secretary for Education, Research, and Innovation, Dr. Martina Hirayama. I'd like to welcome you to the stage.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, good morning. Welcome to the House of Switzerland. I'm really happy you are here, and I'm happy that we can take you today to a short journey to the future. You will have the opportunity to listen to different representatives from science, from industry, and to get insights into emerging technologies they work on, and to get an idea how our world could look like tomorrow, and even maybe you will get an idea of what is already possible today and you are not aware of yet. So the panelists will discuss about, of course, the opportunities, but as well about the risks concerning these emerging technologies. Switzerland is in a good position because we have good framework conditions. We have a dual education system. We have world-class universities. 60% of our students in Switzerland study at the university being ranked in the top 200 of the Shanghai ranking. This is absolutely unique in the world. You do not find it anywhere else in this region. So if it's 20%, it's already very good, and so we have 60. But with our education system, vocational education and training, we are able to address the skills and educate the skills which are necessary for the companies being active in Switzerland, and that's very important also to have a strong cooperation here. In Switzerland, 2021, almost 25 billion Swiss francs were invested in research and innovation. This is 3.4% of our GDP, and what is very important, 2/3 of this investment is private investment. We have a strong funding of basic research, but we also invest in technology transfer, and we invest in international cooperation. And you will see today that looking at the challenges we are faced with, it's very important to work on this in international cooperation, but also across disciplines. The complexity of the questions we deal with increases, and this is why this is necessary. So thank you very much to ETH Meets Davos, preparing with us this event today. Thank you to Chris Kümmern, moderating and taking care that we have also the possibility to discuss some questions. I wish you an inspiring panel discussion and, of course, fruitful conversations afterwards. And it's always also an opportunity to get to know new people, develop new ideas together, and to have an interesting morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Danke vielmals, Dr. Hirdiyama. Next, we have the French, we have to have parity, right, over the Röstigraben. We have the French-Swiss physicist and alpinist, professor, and since 2019, the same year, the president of the ETH, or the ETH in Zurich. Joël, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Martina, for the words, also for what you're doing. And it's great to have you all here. To be described as an alpinist, be careful with that, because my brother is a mountain guide, so if he hears that, he will be laughing. And so, why we are here, ETH, and as universities and the ETH domain, I speak now for the ETH domain, we have a very simple mission. That's the way also Michael Hengartner, who is around here, is putting it. We are here to best serve society, okay? And we do that in 3 ways. We do that in education, that was mentioned before. 70% of our students go directly to industry. We do that through research, and we combine research and education very early. From the first year already, our students are brought into research projects. And then the last part is know-how transfer through different ways, startups, but also people going in different, also in administration. And we are so providing the workforce for you, economy, and we hope we do that the best way we can. But we are also addressing the global challenges. And if I just, from the top of my mind, decarbonization, making this world safer. So all the cybersecurity aspect, I will come back to this a bit later. In the health sector, we have an aging population. We have pandemics all over the place. Just read this morning that COVID is back, and I hope we are all safe. And then, oh, you were the one who are forced to be in Switzerland, apparently. Okay, interesting. I didn't see you from the other side. Okay, but so it's clearly we need new technologies, and the State Secretary mentioned the complexity, and I would put a different angle, also the dimension of what is happening and the urgency of what is happening. And so clearly we need new technologies, and we need to accelerate the transfer of these technologies to applications. I come back to this later. Just to be clear, it doesn't mean that technology alone will make it. We need more than that. And so we are engaging also ETH in different ways. Now, what are these technologies? I mean, I could spend an hour talking about breakthrough technologies, but here in Davos, AI is all over the place. It will transform our society. It is transforming our society. Even, you know, computer science at ETH is one of the top 3 computer science department worldwide, whatever rankings. We are always in the top 3. And even our scientists have been astonished, surprised by the speed at which it is happening. It's not only about making nice speeches. It goes as deep as finding new solutions to complex equations, nonlinear equations. This is happening now. So it's transforming the way we do research as well. And and this will be extremely important also to tackle these global challenges. I'll give you just one example, climate change. We can put all the measures, all the technologies in place. At the end, we will need to have some kind of monitoring of what's happening. Otherwise, it might be that we just don't control what's happening. And here, the only way to do that at scale, I mean at the planet scale, is to use satellites data. We need new sensors to see what the farmers are doing, if it is really effective, and so on. We are working on all these topics. Another field that is going to be transformative is quantum computing. But quantum is not only about quantum computing, it's about quantum sensors. Those are new types of sensors that allow to have a huge amount of data with a much higher precision. Give you one example. This is not so well known, but in conflict regions, and I don't name countries, GPS doesn't work anymore. It's even worse than that. There are fake GPS, so that the airplanes suddenly are completely lost, right? And you can imagine who is behind this. So you need a sensor that is independent from the GPS to localize yourself. And the best way to do that is to use the Earth magnetic field. But for that, you need 2 orders of magnitude higher precision. Only the quantum sensors, that, by the way, that were developed in particle physics experiment at CERN, at the Paul-Scherrer Institute, now make the way to real applications for real life. And there are amazing development happening in the chemical industry, in the biotech, DNA technologies, and so on. This is really amazing what's happening. You have seen maybe the news that the new vaccine for cancer based on DNA technology is now on the way. Also for the mechanical industry, machine industry, there are new ways to produce pieces that allow much more flexibility to increase the speed and also the efficiency. So what are the key for the success? So Switzerland has an innovative industry that was mentioned. The numbers are quite impressive, what is put by the industry for research R&D. We have heard we have great universities, I mentioned this example all over the place, because if you take US as an example, you have a few top universities. I think they don't come to 10% of the students being in one of the top 100 universities. So Switzerland has an amazing level, but it works because we have a fantastic dual system. People are sometimes astonished that the president of ETH mentioned the vocational education, and it's because of my experience. You know, I've built detectors all my life, small, big, very big, and without the technicians, it's just not working. And what we deliver in Switzerland is always an order of magnitude more precise than what is done in other countries. And this is because of our dual education system. So we need to protect that. And maybe even to develop it further. Why not combine, you know, vocational education with some research? This is what we do at ETH. We have 150 vocational students, and they all participate to a research project, and this is amazing what is then produced. An idea maybe that we should pursue. We have been discussing this since 2019. The next point that we need to do, because of the sense of urgency, is to accelerate the transformation, the translation from basic research to application. And here, with EPFL, with PSI and EMPA, we are trying to find new ways to do that. I just give you one example. The scale up of the technologies of what we have in the lab. We use our campuses. You know, ETH is 40,000 people altogether, so it's like a small city. Why don't we use our campuses as demonstrators of these technologies? We do that in cybersecurity with the science technology, and we are going to do that in the energy sector to make our campuses CO2 free. And then we can expose this to industry, we can make corrections, and maybe the translation will be accelerated. So we have this coalition for green energy and storage. This is exactly what we want to do. Megawatt methanation of green energy, hydrogen and CO2 retraction from the sources. What it needs also is international collaboration. This is absolutely key. Switzerland has we are powerful compared to our size, actually over-powerful, but we need collaboration. And here I bring the topics. Thank you for really the breakthrough in being again reassociated with Horizon Europe. I really hope it's going to happen. I hope politics will support us. You need to support us. I know that many of you do that, but this is really essential. Imagine we have been completely excluded from any quantum programs in EU. One of the leaders in Europe has been excluded. We have been excluded from space research from the ERC EU program, not from ESA, which is a very good thing, but other what they call strategically how do they call it? Defense of important topics we have been excluded. I hope we can reintegrate these programs. Talking about quantum, so the NID is to make the future step as a CERN of quantum. How it will be called, we will see, because I believe Europe can play a special role. If you see at what's happening in AI or in the quantum computing field, this is either in the hands of a few companies, US companies, or in the hands of a few Asian countries where we don't exactly know what happens. How to set the standards without too much regulation. This will be key. Switzerland has a super position here. We are between Europe and US, and we can find new ways. And the last point, I'm finished, is to say, I said at the beginning, technology alone will not make it. We can see what happens with 5G technologies. 30% of the population completely refusing to accept the vaccines. This is continuing to develop. So we need to install a strong dialogue with society, with the administration, and with the politics. And we have defined this, the ETH domain, the ETH Zurich, as one of the pillars for the next 5 years. And with this, I'm looking forward to the discussion, and thank you for your attention, for being here.
Thank you very much, Joan. Thank you very, very much. As you can see, a very impassioned plea for the role of science and tech in society, which is it's wonderful to have him as our leader. We have 3 impulses now, each about 5 minutes. And the first will be Andreas Gurtner. Andreas, we're going to have you up. He's an assistant professor from ETH Zurich and co-founder of Alivion. Is that right?
Alivion, yes.
Okay, said that. It specializes in chemical sensing tech. So take it away. Tell us what you do.
Thank you very much. Now, smartphones. We all have them. They can see, they can feel when we touch them, they can listen to us, they can even think, but they cannot smell. And this is also true if we think about other advanced technologies that we have, drones like robots and so on. They, for example, primarily perceive the environment through vision. Now, if you imagine what would become possible if we would have the sense of smell for our electronics, there is quite huge potential and even perhaps solution to some of our most pressing challenges. For example, air quality. We are surrounded by potentially hazardous chemicals that can threaten our health, but we are not really monitoring them. So right now in this room, without really knowing the building, I'm quite sure that there is no sophisticated air quality monitoring that goes beyond simple temperature measurement and perhaps humidity. And we realized already during the COVID pandemic, which apparently is still a threat, that this is quite critical because we have no practical solutions available, for example, to characterize the viral load in a room as in which we are present at the moment. Now, why do our electronics not have the sense of smell at the moment? And the main reason is it's quite challenging because you have thousands of different molecule types surrounding, and typically the information is stored at very low concentrations, 1 to 1 million or even lower. And we are tackling this challenge at ETH Zurich with nanotechnology. So we are designing materials that can then interact with these molecules and translate this into something measurable. So making basically this information visible to us. And there are a couple of applications that we are working on right now. This range from medical monitoring, for example, breath analysis. Every time when you exhale, there are thousands of different molecules that are expired, and they all bear information on your health status, similar to our blood, but we are not using it right now. We developed a couple of sensors which are at the moment in clinical trials where we monitor, for example, diabetes, dieting, liver, kidney diseases, and worldwide there are efforts also ongoing for lung cancer detection and so on. So I'm quite certain that in a few years, if you go to your family doctor, you will not just provide a blood sample, but you will also blow into a device. And the good part about this is it doesn't hurt. Then there are also other activities ongoing for different applications. For example, we are integrating at the moment some of our sensors into astronaut helmets and headphones. So the idea is there to do continuous remote monitoring for space exploration and many other projects that are going on. Now, the advantage of these sensors is they are very small and cheap. So you can produce them really at sizes of less than 1 by 1 millimeter in size. So you can easily imagine how they could fit into a smartphone, for example. Another advantage is you have quite short, in most cases, short innovation to product times if you want to translate this technology. We did this, for example, 2 years ago with a startup company, Alivion. And it took Alivion 1 year actually to go from innovation at ETH Zurich to a product. And after now 12 months on the market, this product has been sold to customers in 26 countries on 4 continents, for example, to help them to assess the product quality of green fuels, in that case, methanol. So there is a lot of potential, a lot of work going on, and I'm also quite convinced that in a few years, your smartphone will be able actually to sniff chemicals and assess your surrounding. Thank you.
That's great. Stay here, stay here. So, pretty cool. Anyone think this is pretty cool? I mean, no, yeah, some of you didn't put your hand up, which means you weren't listening. I know.
I will try to convince.
We got to try a bit harder next time. But so we know that, like for example, dogs. I grew up with dogs my whole life, and they seem to be able to smell and sense many things that we can't. So how does the sense of smell work in a dog and their brain and versus what you're trying to do now? I mean, what's the relationship there?
Well, yes, I mean, nature is sometimes quite astonishing and inspiring.
Yeah.
So the dogs, I mean, what they actually smell, for example, when they smell a lung cancer from breath in a patient, we don't know, they don't tell us. But there are many efforts going on at the moment where we try to identify now the chemical signature of these diseases, and then we do something that is, we copy from nature from time to time. So we also, same as in the nose, we make our sensors that are the receptors, and then we have smart algorithms which somehow mimic the brain of the dog. So we are going in that direction, but I mean, the dogs, they are quite advanced. We are not there yet, so.
Well, we all knew that it's a dog's life, right? This is what we say. That's really cool. So when do you think, you said 2 years, what, from an emerging technology standpoint here in Switzerland, what's needed in order for you to help make sure that's in every one of our phones within the next 18 months or 2 years? What do you need?
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of major challenges, and these are actually the ones that we typically address in the scientific field at ETH Zurich. So this is, for example, creating materials that can really specifically measure some molecules, because when you exhale, you don't care about all the 1,000 molecules, so you need to make sensors that very specifically detect the signature. These are some of the challenges, so this is about surface engineering and so on, and then the fabrication technology. And then typically there are other challenges which then industry can address, which is scalability, to make it affordable, and so on. Okay, so it's that part, sort of like the fundamental research part, and then handing it over to the ramp up, scale up commercializations. That works. So, Andreas, thank you very, very much. It's really interesting. Sure. Thank you. Very cool. Okay, excuse me. Our next up is Heike Riel, who's an IBM fellow, the head of science and technology, and the lead of the IBM research in Quantum Europe and at IBM Research. Is that correct? Did I do that okay?
I'm fine.
There's so many things about you I could have talked about, but there we go.
That's not why we're here. So thank you very much for having me. It's really a great pleasure. And he asked us all a question at the beginning, right? Unfortunately, I couldn't say yes to this first question. So I came 25 years back to Zurich, and actually I came to do my PhD here. And starting to work on emerging technologies, attracted by the excellence of science, and actually joining IBM for my PhD because of the impact I can make in the pull I get from the division. Because the divisions are very interested to get something out of you, and this was personally for me very, very motivating. This is why I actually joined this research lab, of course also because of the excellence which we have. So, attracted by this excellence, I started the first day at IBM. And the first day, I met 4 Nobel Prize winners. Wow, that was very scary, and but also very, very motivating. And you may know them, Heini Rohrer, Gerd Binnig, Alex Müller, and Charles Spetnarz, and they invented things which really made a big impact to the society. And that is also why what we are driving as researchers, also of course what Joël mentioned, right? This is what we want to have. We want to have impact, we want to solve great and grand challenges. But there is also the speed. And I think this is also part of the WEF and the discussions. Our current situation is so dynamic that speed is very important. And we want to invent, we want to innovate faster, we want to bring results faster to the products and to the world, be more efficient. And the pace has been boosted, and we have to work to further accelerate it. And why I'm saying this? Because I'm working on something which I could actually not bring out of my pocket, but it's very, very important. Who is using not a computer? So we are working on the future of computer, and why we're doing this in Switzerland also is, and you see founded in 1956 our research lab in Rüschlikon, because Switzerland is a very innovative place. We have been attracted by the educational institutions also. Of quality is also good, right? And you attract really passionate researchers about this. And we work, what is important is people, because people drive the innovation with their passion, they drive to the next level. You need to create a vision that you can also attract more people to follow you, and you need, which is very important, the infrastructure to make your dream a reality. And therefore, I think also Switzerland here has a big role, because there is excellent infrastructure, also the ETH and EPFL and all the universities provide for education. And diversity is very important also. This has become and will become also even more important. Having access to the different disciplines, bringing them all together to work on the great challenges. So now I have brought this picture, the Earth. Take a moment to look at it. I think everyone has a different thought and a different feeling when you look at this picture. What it is, it's also an ecosystem. It's a very complex ecosystem, which is endangered right now, as we all know. And so this also creates passion, which we have in order to solve these problems. But we also know that the current computational power we have available is not possible to solve and to simulate the ecosystem and predict or even then have solutions ready. And so this is easy to imagine that this is not solvable exactly. But then if you go to the next level, you go to the molecule. And that's actually a picture of a molecule which has been done in our lab by the Nobel Prize invented. And also this system, it's a very small molecule, only 1 nanometer in diameter, cannot be solved exactly by today's computers. Only approximations, and that is an important part to do this for also coming up with new medicine, coming up with predicting with new materials, which are important. So computing is so central to the innovation, and Joël mentioned, you have mentioned it before also, because all the research which is done today is to some extent also based on computation. AI is based on computation. So we have high-performance computing. There is also innovation which is coming. The transistor is kind of, maturing very much after 75 years of excellent, impactful innovation. There are other techniques to further enhance the performance. There are new accelerators which are coming into the game, like special hardware to make the workload of artificial intelligence faster and do it at less energy consumption. And everything is connected through the cloud, because you need the data, you need the different types of compute to solve the problem with the right part. And there are still problems then which cannot be solved, even by these others, where we want to use quantum computers. And Joël already touched it. That is a very important topic, because quantum computing has a completely different exponential scale of how the performance is improving compared to classical computer. And that's what we want to use to solve these exponential problems where I indicated before. And so inside IBM, we also have changed our innovation to create a faster pace by bringing 7 or almost 8 years ago a quantum computer in the cloud. At that time, only with 5 qubits. But we made it accessible by universities to researchers to actually accelerate the innovation, to have them access to this tool of research, to learn, to accelerate research, to advance, to do new things, to come up with other ideas, to form a community, to do open innovation. And we also have collaborated and also driven then the hardware to further improve. And you see the different types of processors we have built every year, increasing the number of qubits, increasing the scale, increasing the performance, by working very, very hard on this problem and to achieve these challenges. So last year, we demonstrated a new processor which already broke the 1,000 qubit barrier. From 5 qubits in 2016 now to above 1,000. And in 10 years, we want to build a quantum system with more than 100,000 qubits. What bird is that? That is Condor. Yeah, you'll see it written there. And this was pushing scale and yield of this technology. And of course, we are not stopping here, right? We are continuing in order to increase the performance because we are yet actually at the moment where we can compete with HPCs, with high-performance computers, for a special problem. Not for all the problems, but for a special problem. So it's a research tool, meanwhile, which is very valuable and pushes the classical and the classical front also. And this is a new processor which we also built after all the learnings which we did, or in parallel to all the learnings which we did, to push the quality and the speed and also the modularity, because in order to increase to 100,000 qubits, you need modularity and a good path forward. We have published a development roadmap where we create the hardware stack and the software stack in parallel to really bring this new type of radical new computing, because it's not based on transistors, not based on bits, but on quantum bits, into the world. I'm almost done. So I wanted to show you this. Last year in June, we have for the first time went in competition with an HPC from Lawrence Livermore National Berkeley Laboratory, where we took a problem, which is calculating the magnetization of a material, and did it with the quantum computer and did it with the HPC. And slowly increased the number of qubits, because a processor with above 100 qubits, you can no longer classically simulate. So there is no classical computer you can ever build on the world that you can exactly simulate a 100-qubit processor. And we have taken our 127 qubit processor and competed with the HPC. The HPC, you know, at a certain point, it couldn't, as I said, no longer exactly calculate it, simulate it. Then classical approximations were used, but even those struggled and could not give the right result. After 2 weeks, our paper was out, or 3 weeks. 3 new papers from the classical world came in because they improved their algorithms, their classical algorithms. So we are right now in a very, very dynamic and interesting field where we improve each other's technology. But when you look at the exponential increase of quantum computing compared to classical computing, you can also easily foresee that there is soon a point where classical computers can no longer compete with it. And with this, I want to stop, because we have entered this era of quantum utility where you can use quantum computers as a very valuable research tool to push and accelerate research and progress and innovation. And we are soon, I mean, I didn't talk a lot about quantum, but about AI, but quantum and AI are the ones, and this will accelerate discovery. I'm leaving. Thank you.
Thank you, Heike. Thank you very much, Heike. And quantum utility is a new term I'm going to have to integrate into my vocabulary. Thank you very much for that excursion. Very impressive evolution. And finally, we have Niklaus Boldebam, who is the CEO of the Swiss M4M Center, a group that's dedicated to industrializing research with a focus on medical device 3D printing. So here you are. Come on up, sir. And we need you're going to stand there? Okay, cool.
Honestly, between us, we all wonder why Switzerland, as a very small country, is recognized as the most innovative nation in the world. At least for me, it's a very fascinating fact. I am a medtech engineer and proud to lead a small entity, the Swiss M4M Center. We are dedicated to develop new process around medical device additive manufacturing. We design, manufacture innovative surgical instruments, implants for the well-being of the patients, for the well-being of us here in this room. In our opinion, harnessing the potential of emerging technology has to do with certain activities, but also mindset. First of all, pushing the limits of what is possible every day is very important. Then recognizing the potential of industrialization, bringing applied research to the industry is at the core of the success. And finally also, of course, as we discussed, recognizing the pivotal role of education. My team is dedicated every day to improve processes, to redesign objects that we can make them layer after layer and transform them from an idea to a ready, useful medical device. This requires a mindset to not be afraid to target the unknown, to push the limits, to discover things that never was done with this manufacturing process. And Switzerland did that since a long time. In fact, we are recognized here in this country to be revolutionizing healthcare. From startups, SMEs, multinationals, we have a lot of innovation that are made in Switzerland in the medical device industry. 60,000 people are working in this industry. It's comparable to the watch industry. Bridging the gap between applied research and industrial application is, in our opinion, the key for the success. We have best-in-class universities. We have recognized research labs. But we also have to admit that the reality in the industry is very different. The focus on costs, processes, quality needs to be addressed to bring an idea to a technical readiness level that is useful. Finally, education, I think we speak about that, is very important. The ability to train our workforce, especially today with the lack of these people, is very important. Again, Switzerland, with this dual system, with best-in-class program, technology transfer program, is able to address this challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, I will finish my talk with a little story. Because before being an engineer, I am a proud dad. And currently, I share a ritual with my little daughter, Malia. She is 4 years old. And before going to bed, we have this moment of storytelling. Currently, we reread the story of the 3 little pigs. You will ask me, what has this story to do with this talk here? In fact, I will answer you, for me, about everything. What we learn in this story is that 3 little pigs are trying to build a bright future. They are trying to build a house, one in straw, one in wood stick, and one in bricks. But we learn that planning, investing in sustainable process, and having a mindset of doing the things right lead to the success. The wise pig, the older one, did invest a long time to build his house in bricks. So is the same in Switzerland and in additive manufacturing. We invest in planning, in sustainable process to build our future bricks after bricks. If we think about technology the next time, maybe we remember the story of the 3 little pigs. This will give us some hints how to tackle the future and take the best out of that. Thank you very much.
So I love your 3 little pig story, because as a structural engineer and an architect, I argue your daughter is going to be either an architect or an engineer one day. Maybe. Yeah, that's what we need. But I would like to ask all 3 of our impulse givers to come on up on stage. And if you have a question or a couple of questions of them, Heike, come on up, because they're going to reset the stage. And while they're doing that behind us, maybe you have a question for these 3. Come on up so they can move the chair. Come on, step up here. All the way up to the edge. There we go. Thank you. Don't jump. That's the only thing. As you're thinking of a question to ask these 3 amazing individuals, tell us a device which you've commercialized. There's one of the things that you've done right now. But
basically, we have different applications today. It goes to minimal invasive surgical devices for robotic surgery, cardiology devices where we need complexity that we build out of 3D printing, metal 3D printing mainly. Goes to orthopedic devices, hip cups, hip implants that I hope no one has here. But,
wait, you hope because the quality's not so good? Or
no, because we do things that we never hope that it will end in the patient. That's
Fair enough. Okay, well,
the business of the medical device
yeah, that's good. No, my father has 2 of them, so I'm glad of that. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask of these 3? Oh, come on. You want, sir?
Question. With this new data regulation coming up, there's actually more with the metadata, make sure where data come from and going. Is that having a big impact on your work right now in Europe?
For all 3 of you, when we think about the new data regulations where it's really even more strict than DPR, is that having or will that have an impact on any of your work?
I mean, so we already see that the current regulation, already has impact, right? In the medical area, in the medical area, it's even worse, right? But I think what is important to have the right regulation, and I think I think Switzerland has done things very, very well. That there is not over-regulation. You need a certain regulation. You should not do it too early, not too late. And also, it's the same with standardization also. If you think about also quantum computing and standardization, people start, we need to standardize now. But you kill also innovation if you standardize or if you regulate too much or too early. So it's very critical to do it in the right way.
Okay. Any other questions on data for you guys?
I think it's very important. I think we are in the field of personalized medicine as well, creating implants for each individual. And data, the patient data is at the core of what we do, how we protect that, how we can ensure along the chain that this is going to the right place. Huh?
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, I'm actually really quite intrigued and would love to have this device which can let me know if I've had too many tequilas or if I'll be diabetic, it's in my family, so just know these things. But that's an incredible amount of data and the other data. So are you already thinking about this now, or is it a problem to be solved?
Well, we are thinking to some extent, but we are in the good situation that we do not really have to care. But of course, if you bring it at the end on the market and then have widespread use, you need to think about data safety and also ownership of data and so on. And these are things in larger collaborations we consider as well. So we have people involved, which is about machine ethics and so on. So it's definitely something ongoing and something where not just researchers, but also policymakers and so on have to move in the near future.
I would say we do have to care. Maybe you say you're not going to care. You're going to problem solve. We all have to care about that, I think. We have time for one more question. Here, Harris.
Harris P+, graduate doctoral student in architecture and city planning at ETH, and I'm also guest lecturing. And I'm quite intrigued, what Professor Messel, what you said about engaging society as one of the last statements. And as an architect and urban planner, we do not really do a lot of basic research, but rather applied research and implementation. And in this, you got to have the talent and ability to mobilize stakeholders. And I believe citizen science as one of the keywords in engaging society could be one of the most critical. So if you could reflect more on that.
Yeah, thank you for actually for the question. Actually, there were 2 departments that inspired us to move in that direction. One was architecture, and the other one was MTech, who is doing a lot of and the social science department that we have at ETH. So what we decided is to generalize what you were doing in these departments, and the reason for that is. So the main point of reasoning, we had this in mind all the time, but during COVID, we have seen how difficult the dialogue was to be established. You know, in a crisis situation, to create a body like the National COVID Task Force, where politics, administration, and cantonal and federal and scientists didn't know each other and started to communicate. First, you need the right wording. You need to establish some rules about what you communicate, what you don't communicate, who communicates. It was extremely demanding. It went to a point where we needed to organize the police for the leaders of the task force, which were from ETH. And so we realized, okay, now we need to establish a continuous dialogue with the government, with the administration, and with the society, just to be prepared for such situations. after COVID, at the ETH talk, so the DS Academicus, I mentioned, the next crisis is programmed, will come. It might be in the energy sector. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, right? Okay, so that's the reason why we do that.
Thank you, Joël.
There's a question here.
Go ahead, you can do really short, then we're...
With the advent of quantum computing, some predict that cryptography needed in blockchain, for instance, will become redundant. And so with the acceleration of quantum computing, would that be redundant? And in that case, how would you then have data security and
Thank you very much for the question. So that's a very important question, and because quantum computing can, in the future, if they are big enough, if the number of qubits, if they're error corrected, so it will still take some while, but there is an algorithm, the so-called Shor algorithm, which can break then the code which is currently used. Because of the compute power, it's just much smaller. It may take 30 seconds instead of 300 years to calculate the problem. But you don't have to worry, because right now there is also a lot of mitigation going on to identify new algorithms for the encryption part. And there are algorithms which cannot be broken by quantum computers because of the math which is used for the algorithm. And there have been already many years back an initiative across the world of the researchers to come up with new algorithms. And 2 years ago, 4 of them were elected by the NIST in the US. They are currently standardized. And I have to proudly say that in 4 of them, in 3 of them, IBM Research in Zurich is involved.
Very cool.
So you can actually use them to already encrypt your data in a quantum safe way, because if people now store data and then can encrypt it later, right? So you want to mitigate against that risk.
Thank you very much. Let us give a hand of appreciation to our 3 impulse cables. Thanks, guys. Thank you. And if I could ask our next 3 guests to come on up to the stage. Come on up. We're a little bit late on time. Judith, Peter, and Ralph, come on up. Judith, Peter, Ralph, or whatever you're going to put there. So now we have a panel and 3 more really amazing humans. And I'm going to ask each one of you to introduce yourselves, because I'll just butcher it and not say the right things, I'm sure. And if I could ask Judith, if I could ask you to introduce yourself, National Councillor.
Yes, hello there, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Judith Belesch. I'm the Managing Director of SWICO. We are the Association of the Digital Industry. So I do represent around 700 tech companies here in Switzerland. I have also been very active in politics, in Swiss politics, for 15 years and spent the last 4 years in the Swiss Parliament. So I see my role also as bridging the communication and the understanding between the tech industry and the politics.
Great, thank you very much, and welcome. And Petra?
Hey everybody, I'm Petra. I'm an ETH alumni, proud ETH alumni.
Oh, sorry.
Studied mechanical engineering over here, went later on to Stanford, did my master's there, and am back in Switzerland. Worked long time for Google, almost 9 years, and then they hired me out to join Ringier as the Chief Innovation Officer. And now my role expanded to also cover AI, which is an exciting role because Ringier has invested lots of money over the past decade to innovate from outside, to buy strategic assets. And now is the time to innovate from within. And looking forward to the panel.
Thank you, Petra, very much. And last but not least, Ralph.
Yeah, hello. No innovation without manufacturing. My name is Ralph Gerdes. I'm from Inspire, and we are doing technology transfer from the ETH and other universities in Switzerland into the industry. We are doing this with about 100 people and having about more than 100 projects in that field, cooperating with more than 400 companies in Switzerland. And this is one of the triggers to make innovation successful in Switzerland.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Are you an ETH alumni?
No.
Oh. And Judith, are you an ETH alumni? Oh, no. Okay. Well, at least half the panel is. That's okay. Okay.
But it still can happen.
I like that. Well, we'd welcome you back. Petra, I'd like to start with you in the middle. And when you just heard these three individuals, what do you think about? What does it make you think about? I'm going to ask all three of you. Interesting?
Of course, I mean, bridging technology with politics is important. Bridging what comes from university, bringing that out into the field is very crucial. And to be true to a very innovative country, it's not only for me about innovating, but also bringing that innovation to life. Mm-hmm. And so it seems we cover a broad spectrum over here.
Yeah. And what about from the three presentations before? Did anything catch your mind? I saw you looking at them quite carefully.
Yeah, no, I was highly interested, and of course I'm very excited about the opportunities that come, that lie in front of us. In Switzerland, we have a high density of top research. We have a leading position in some of these topics. We have a very engaged private sector, as we've heard today. 2/3 of the research investments come from the private sector. So yeah, I think this is absolutely key, but now having been around for a while and also in politics, of course, I also have concerns around that. And having the opportunities does not mean that we will actually use them. And my concern is really that we might miss some of them because maybe our lack of proactive positioning from the politics, also lack of understanding, also a lack of talent, for instance. I mean, we've heard where we are about quantum, 1,000 qubits, that is pretty impressive. Mm. And you know, we have a leading position in research. But then even if we happen to make a breakthrough and say, I'm pretty confident that we will reach these 100,000 qubits, we'd have a huge lack of talent in Switzerland. So I'm asking myself, how can we scale this technology then out of Switzerland into the rest of the world? And we've seen what happened in AI. We have been pretty leading. I mean, AI is not really new in research, right? I mean, we all know that. But nobody is talking about the Swiss AI application. I mean, ChatGPT is in everybody's mouth. And I do have concerns that we are missing the opportunity to actually use the research position that we have into a commercial opportunity and into a leading position in the world. So that is my position today.
Great. No, thank you, Judith. That's really very clear. And I see, Ralph, you're nodding your head constantly as she was talking. So tell us more about what you're thinking when you hear that.
For me, it's also the big strength which we have also is if we consider all of the aspects here. So let me give you an example. So we also in the machining technology looking into sniffing very simple. But let's say if you manufacture and the process went well, then the oil starts to smell, and this is something where you can use a sensor. What we also need to have is the increasing demand for IT technology, because this is extremely important for the Swiss industry. Most of them still are at industry 3.0, 4.0, but it's important really to speed up here and to see what can happen. And the other point is this one of the technology transfer. So my colleague Nikolai is doing this in the field of additive manufacturing. We are also collaborating there and have projects in common. And this is also one of the big strengths. Switzerland is small, but if we combine everything, we can be strong.
So let me stay with you for just a minute, because you maybe think, because Switzerland and most of Europe lives on the SME world, the small and medium-sized enterprise world.
Yes.
So tell me about how you see this world evolving and strengthening with emerging tech coming into a small company who can barely afford to upgrade their own operating system, say.
Yeah. So do you know how many SME companies Switzerland has?
I don't, but someone in here surely does.
About 12,000. And if you look at this, there are only a few hundred which have more than 200 employees. So we are talking about many of these small and little companies. And several of them are just coming up of startups. So Joel told already about how many startups we have at the ETH. We have also at Inspire approximately 1 startup per year, and they are continuously growing. And now looking into this one, what is required, many of these companies cannot afford an own R&D organization.
And this is also something where we can step in project-wise, and also then together with the ETH, with the Universities of Applied Science and the other organizations, we can then bundle the resources and get the resources to support the companies and resolve their problem.
That's great, thank you. So, Petra, I want to come to you. So, your job for many years has been bringing tech into the market, right? Looking at emerging tech. So how do you define emerging tech? Because one part of the world, something might be already around for 10, 20 years, and another part, it could be emerging because no one's ever seen it before. So how do you define or see this word and this domain?
Yeah, you just mentioned that that was for a long time part of my job at Google, to bring emerging tech to the market. One of the latest one was bringing augmented reality indoor navigation to the world and scale it across all the airports. A proud fact here was we started with Airport Zurich. So once and for all, we had in all the tech press pictures of Zurich there and demonstrating how indoor navigation works here. So I'm coming more from the applied field, obviously. So emerging technology is everything that just comes out of the lab and is about to have a big impact on the globe, be that with computer vision, be that with spatial computing, be that with edge technology, be that with Web3, etc. So everything that is ready to from my perspective, what is relevant for me is everything that comes out that is ready to be deployed, where we can still be at the front and one of the first ones who are about to implement it.
And so how do you see the the funding of this? Because very often we've been hearing about the importance of early funding and fundamental research for projects, for issues, for programs where we don't really know what's going to emerge. And so, and then maybe you get it afterwards, or you get it afterwards. And so how do you see that relationship?
Yeah, that's one of the big discussions we also have at Ringier, because one of the key ingredients of innovation, if it's truly innovation, we don't know what's going to happen. We have a huge amount of uncertainty. We don't know which projects, which products, which technology is going to fly. And so that's why we always need to have a portfolio approach. We, at Ringier, I founded Ringier X, an accelerator. And so we had 55 teams applying. So it was 200 people from 19 countries. And we have a vast, different amount of projects that goes in there and test and iterate step by step. And then eventually we'll know. So it's a bad idea to just go in and say, we do now this project because we believe in that. And that can be that top management believes in that, but also top management can fail. So it's dangerous to just bet on a few things, but it's always important to bet on multiple things, and one or the other will hopefully fly.
So, you just want to come to you, because you were nodding your head a little bit and smiling as Petra was saying that. And I'm hearing, as you were saying, so a bit of this top-down versus bottom-up, in a sense, or government, the role of government, and then the role of just the individual entrepreneur or individual lab. What were you nodding to, and maybe you could address that?
No, because what Petra said obviously is very true. That is a challenge that the commercial organizations have, where to invest and what bets to take, right? But I believe in the huge topics like quantum, AI, etc. We also have some focus points in research, right? The ETH, EPFL, they've got these strategic approaches, and I believe that we do as a nation and in politics have to take a more strategic approach. And once we have decided and know that in research, okay, let's say we want a leading position in quantum or AI, etc., then really we do have to build a framework around that, and we can't leave it to the ETH and then say, well, maybe there comes a startup out of that. We need to build a talent around that. We need to build a regulation around that, and take a more strategic approach to regulation. So I'll take the example of AI for now, right? Because the EU has recognized the strategic opportunity, but their weapon is always regulation in terms of restriction, right? So they regulate everything. I believe that is a bad idea. Regulation goes beyond restriction. It can do much more for us than just restrict and forbid. It can actually build some security for investors, for startups, and show we want to be the trust hub for AI in terms of data, in terms of ethics, in terms of security, in terms of data protection, that type of stuff. And I sense a strong lack of strategic approach about that. And the same goes with quantum. Like I said, if we really want to be one day the quantum hub in the world and scale technology out of Switzerland, well, we will need to build everything around that, and also quantum. And I've listened so much about quantum, but I understand nothing about that. And the only story that we've got to explain that to people and to politicians is a cat that might be dead or alive. And nobody understands that. And we need to find different stories to explain that to the world.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Thank you. And you know, it's a really, really good point. This issue of storytelling, of making it understandable, I think we hear quite a lot. And I think that's a really, really good point. And I'm sympathetic with you. I've had quantum explained to me over a decade, and I'm still working on it. I'm in different states all the time. But I want to stay with you just a moment, which is the mood in Bern when it comes to this kind of dialogue about the role of Bern in helping science have its role in the national psyche. How do you see this and feel this right now?
Well, I'm finding that extremely difficult, you know, because it's complex and also it's not on top of priorities. You know, politicians really listen to the people in the street, and their concerns are around climate change, or maybe the finding an apartment or paying their bills. That type of inflation was very strong last year. And investing in research is really very far away from people's minds. Yeah. And the same is in politics, you know. So I'm finding that research has got a very high status also because it's got a very high performance. That goes hand in hand. And I'm very proud of our research and of our universities here. But at the same time, it's the only thing that we have in Switzerland. That is really, truly the only research that we have. And if we want to keep that, we will have to invest even more. And what's happening now, maybe some of you have followed the budget discussion, where we are going to spend more is in agriculture and not in science. And that is the problem.
I think it's a little frustrating for many of us. That's fact, yes. So thank you for that. Ralph, I want to come to you. Emerging tech. How do you see these two words together, and what's getting you excited right now? Because you see quite a few things in your role. So what are some of the things, and we've heard about AI. Yeah. What else?
For me, the key question about emerging technology is how to bring the technology really on the ground, because there's a lot of technology like quantum computing and things like this, but what is interesting for the industry, and what are the things which can be used in the industry? So from that perspective is the question on the one side, what kind of technologies do we see at the ETH? And we try to package them and ask then also into the industry, is there a need? Or we have a big network then of industry partners where we can ask for, is this something which we can bring into your organization? It goes also the other way around. Companies approaches us and we try to find then a solution. Let's give me an example. We just recently had a request, or we have a technology where we can structure with laser the surface of different materials. And you can also bring different textures and colors into it, and that's a quite new technology. And we were also asking ourselves, okay, how can we use this? And we went into the industry and asked around and found a small watch company called Oris. and they were extremely interested in this one. And then they not just took this technology and put this into one of their new watches, which they brought onto the market, and it's now out since Christmas and was heavily sold there. So from that perspective, this is really that point. What do we see as technology, and how can we turn it into value as quickly as possible?
So you're sort of a dating service. All right. Don't make me a crass. But excuse me, I would like to change themes for a second, and that is you talk a lot about emerging tech, but I like about innovation and the culture of innovation. And what do you observe from the culture of innovation when you're going and talking to the companies or talking to some of the startups? What do you see as the high points and low points of our culture of innovation?
The high points of the culture of innovation is the education system which we have behind, and the big competences in the people.
Yeah.
So whenever I talk to the companies, they are really proud about the people they have coming out of the different education systems. So we have this dual education system, and this really helps, and even the universities of applied science are at an extremely high level. What is a little bit the hindering point is always when you talk about innovation, innovation will only fly if you have a business case behind it. So how can you turn this into money? So you can come up with all technologies. If you have your iPhone, you have maybe 100 apps on it, but you just use one or two. And the question is, why? And you only use those which have a value. And this is also that one. And if we talk about also all of these things, artificial intelligence and stuff like this, the question is then, how do we turn this into innovation and make also a business out of it? We have all of these technologies of AI, and no company will implement AI if it's just for the purpose of AI. They, at the end, need to make some money with it. And that's the rule of the game. But nevertheless, this is also one of the factors which is then pushing and accelerating innovation.
That's great. Petra, I see you've reached over to grab the microphone. So clearly you like to add, and I was going to ask you next anyway. So what are your thoughts on this?
So I fully agree with what you just said. Very strong in research and very strong in inventions. So if you look back around the last 100 years, I mean, the car was invented in Europe, computers as well, the fax machine, the MP3 files, etc. So lots of the big inventions that are important for our times were invented on this continent. But if you look at who commercializes it, it was not us. So that's why when I studied at Stanford, Angela Merkel came by and gave a speech, and she was very proud to point out to the Americans that not everything came from the US. But she also admitted, sadly, that, the Americans are faster in commercializing it. And a reason, I think, is also the mindset. I observed that in a bunch of cases. The mindset here is rather, we got to reduce the risk. With AI, for instance, I observe, for instance, we're very fast at providing guidelines on what we can do and what we cannot do, and we want to be careful. So it's all about risk minimization. And the Americans, they're not only about risk minimization, but they're for value maximization. So they want to get as much out of the technology as possible. And that pushes them forward. Yesterday I had a conversation with an entrepreneur. He has a bunch of companies that are now on the NASDAQ. And he said that constant hunger, because a few years ago I was also debating, can that happen in Europe? And I bet, we can also bring the European ecosystem further. But I also now see the obstacles from it, because people are very comfortable. It works. The EBITDA margins are good. So I increased the EBITDA margin by 1%. So why not? All good, right? Yeah. But I think if you don't have that mindset that if you don't reinvent yourself constantly, you're dead. And that mindset we don't have here, then that's dangerous. It's way too comfortable.
It's like the houses in the Engadine, they're there since the 1400s, right? And it's just very interesting, this is stability versus dynamicism, and how do we balance that? And so what are you doing at Ringier as in a company now to try to, you mentioned the X program, but just kind of, with this mindset, it takes leadership and it takes participation. So what are you doing? What are some tricks that you think that we could share with some of the others here that you're doing?
Well, what we realized, first of all, it always needs to come from the top. the mandate, we innovate, we appreciate it. It's okay if you try something and if you fail. If that doesn't come from the top, innovation won't fly in the company, first of all. Secondly, all the young talents, they're eager for it. They have been waiting for it, and they appreciate such programs a lot. So it's like the right time. They want to have their own field where they can experiment with something, go for it, try whether it flies, and go back to the drawing board. And so it needs both of that. It needs the mandate from the top, the space, and then people can actually engage. But that's just a starting point, because then obviously it's always the challenge between running the business and changing the business. And most of the time then running the business has more, gets more urgency and importance, because, okay, you got to deliver the numbers. So when will innovation then happen? So my job is then to ensure that they can do that during the working times, and that they're not pushed to, oh yeah, you can do your project in the evening or on the weekend, and you have to decide whether you want to spend time with your family versus time on the innovation project. Yeah. So it needs the mandate, it needs the people, but then also it needs constant realignment that innovation doesn't fall off the cracks.
Because what you're talking here is about an issue of leadership within a corporate standpoint, but there's also leadership at a national standpoint. And I come back to you thinking, how can we encourage the leadership at a national standpoint to also be helping to illuminate, evolve this mindset to encourage innovation and emerging tech to have a place?
Yeah, I mean, it's so refreshing to hear these words, really, and I couldn't agree more with everything. But yeah, like you said, I believe that there is also an opportunity on a national level to enhance and embrace an innovation mindset. For instance, where it's not enough to have the spin-offs in Switzerland, and we've got many of them. I must say that innovation and spin-offs, that works very well. But when it comes to scaling, for instance, so Switzerland is too small a market. They do have to scale to Europe, or more likely to US, and it's gonna be US, because like Petra pointed out, it's just easier there to scale a product. In Europe, even though they call themselves a single market, you know, it's still very fragmented, and exponents I've talked to really complain about regulation and about administrative burden, that type of stuff. So they do go to US, and then it's also going to be US investors. We do have a lack of investment opportunities in Switzerland in a scaling, right? A seed and A series works well. But we've got billions and billions of money in institutional investors, right? And they do prefer to lose everything in a Credit Suisse share than to risk something in a venture fund. That is incredible. They won't invest a penny in a venture fund. And that is part of the mindset on an investment point of view. Then there is also the talent question, right? Because it's much easier to make a buck in a blue chip company in Switzerland than in a startup. You know, we are in a very strong comfort zone. That is a fact. And like you said, that mindset of pioneerism, that is not present in politics. And I believe it's up to us, to the private sector, to point that out again and again and again. And when I was in Parliament, we created that parliamentary group just for startups, right? And we do make progress at a very, very small scale. And I hope that everybody can help with that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And as you said, just keep bringing it up again and again. But I think maybe we can amplify the positive, because we do have some great VCs. We do have some opportunities now. They're emerging more and more, so we can keep focusing on that. Do you want to say something on a new topic? You're going to have a new topic. I'm going to have a new topic. Yes. So if you want to touch on this one, you got one chance.
For me, it's fine.
Yeah, go ahead. Technological sovereignty. There's a lot of talk recently about the idea that we can do all these things by ourselves. And what does technological sovereignty mean? You know, we need to be part of systems, independent of systems. How do you see this idea of standalone versus integration, cooperation, collaboration. Do you have a view on this?
For me, this is extremely important, and this is also the strengths which we have. So at Inspire, we do this, let's say, in a little bit of microcosmos. So what we do is we collaborate with several professors from the ETH and are exactly combining fields of manufacturing, data science, and other stuff like this. If we're now looking into the challenges which we see, and if you look, for example, what Industry 5.0 is looking at, looking at sustainability, resilience, and also the human aspects into this one. And if we look at that from a technology perspective, the question is always, how can we combine these things? Because in many cases, we are thinking about technology, but we are forgetting all of the other aspects. And therefore, it's extremely important to really look at what kind of aspects and questions we have, and then get really the best people around this one and solve this problem. So a problem or innovation right now and nowadays is not just only about technology itself, it's also about the things around this one. And therefore, for me, it's extremely important to combine the forces which we have and see what we can do out of it.
That's great. Great answer. Thank you. You've grabbed the mic. Go for it.
Yeah, if I may, I've got a strong opinion on that, really, because I do not believe actually in sovereignty in tech. There might be differentiating factors, right? I understand that. But to begin with the hardware, we will never have sovereignty. We don't have the raw materials, we don't have the manufacturing, and every country that now believes that they're going to invest in their own chip factory, I just don't believe in that. They don't have the tech, right? And the inherent thing to digitization is really to go beyond frontiers and beyond nations, and sovereignty is the opposite of that. But first of all, I don't see the value of this sovereignty. Who benefits from that? I mean, at the end of the day, the world has benefited from globalization, from collaboration the past 50 years. Why would we want to abandon that?
Good point. Petra, what do you think about this?
It has its pros and cons. I mean, I grew up in a time where globalization was at the peak, and that was very much appreciated. Also, when we look here at the WEF, we have people from all across the world, and we actually learned that we can collaborate actually pretty well, at least on the human level. So there's a bunch of advantage of that. And also, if we look at where do we get the talent from, we need to open up and we need to collaborate. I still believe there's value in some technological sovereignty or in actually building up certain technologies and owning them. Because putting the money into research is amazing, but then also how can we make strong companies? Like how can we create the next Google, the next Facebook, the next Amazon that is based in Switzerland? Mm-hmm. That would be very beneficial also for Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And so I also see there's lots of value in that. And there should be some hunger to solve that.
The hunger word has come up a few times. Judith, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I might contradict. Sorry, of course we want to be. I believe that we confuse leading and sovereignty. I want to be a leading hub in some of the technologies that you mentioned, but if I don't believe in sovereignty, so I believe it's not the same. To have a hub here and to be in a leading position and to have some differentiating factors of doing things out of Switzerland. But we still will have to scale outside of Switzerland and to collaborate. Otherwise, I mean, we've got 9 million people in Switzerland.
I think both of you are probably right on this one. We want to definitely grow capability and grow companies. I'd love to see the next Google, next Facebook, the next ChatGPT here. At the same time, we need to be participating in the world system. Now's a chance for y'all, this is an American word, to say, Guntali. Ask a question, or two or three of our panel. We have about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Does anyone dare? No, come on. This is, again, a very smart audience. Who has a question they'd like to pose? All right, I see, are you sure you dare? You've been forced to live here, and I'm so sorry for your pain.
I think it was a misunderstanding before. I'm a real Swiss, born in Switzerland, enjoying Switzerland very much.
Good.
And also working for IBM, so it's an international perspective at this point.
Wonderful.
I have a question to you, Mrs. Belesh. You mentioned at the beginning of your remarks that we're missing talents in Switzerland or whatever, but I don't agree with this because I think it depends what kind of talents you're talking about. Scientific talents, engineering talents, and we have plenty of them because we import them. We have, luckily in Switzerland, the chance that we have many foreign students coming over and opening startups and so on later on. So my question to you, when you said, are we lacking the number of talents, is it more in politics or is it in science?
That hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts. Well, you're totally right. I mean, politics is one thing, not something that I can change in the quick term. But I relate it to quantum, right? And if we want to have a leading position, say the breakthrough of 100,000 comes, everybody will fight for the talent. And we in Switzerland, I mean, I disagree with what you're saying, we have enough talent. We are highly dependent of talent from abroad. Our demographics only go into one direction, and it's the wrong direction. So we import the talent, that is a fact. And if the first that is going to lead the quantum competition, obviously is going to have to attract a maximum of educated talent in this field. And that is going to be extremely difficult.
You've asked a question. We're going to keep quiet. You can go at it after lunch. Okay, another question. There's another hand over here I saw way in the way back. Go ahead. We need a mic in the way back. Come on up so people can see you. Don't hide. That's all right. There you go. There you go.
My name is Jonathan Cardenas. I'm a venture capital lawyer from the US. What could the government do here to incentivize venture capital investment from a tax or regulatory standpoint? Because without some government push, it may take too long, especially when you see some of the needs behind the technologies. This has to be pushed a little bit faster. So what could the government do to incentivize VC investment here?
We'll let her answer then. That's a very leading question, meaning I already have the answer in my head. Is that right? Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I could hear that question already. Would you like to answer?
Is that to me as well? Well, there is a number of things that US actually do already. I mean, there are tax reliefs. There are also some incentives for people working in startups when they are paid in shares, for instance, because they don't have the money to cash out. And it's got to be attractive to hold these shares and not to pay tax in advance. They also have to be incentivized to then get the cash when they have an exit or sell the shares. But also in terms of investors, right? I mean, some countries, and Europe is starting now also to have governmental funds that directly invest in startups. Now, I'm not a super friend of that, but if everybody else is going to do that, and Switzerland's the only one who's not going to do that, we lag behind in competition. But at the least, we could build the frameworks for institutional investors. I'm talking pension funds, right, that are extremely conservative. For them to give them some incentive to invest in startups.
So let me ask you, so before yesterday we had here on the same stage in the House of Switzerland, the head of the National Bank from Brazil. And she talked about the role of their national bank in de-risking some of their investments, some of their projects, so that other investors would come in. And I think this is you're heading into this idea of de-risking, so the VC wants to come in because there's a market to pull. How do you see this from a political standpoint in Switzerland? Is that even doable? Do we do it already, or how do you see that?
No, I wouldn't say that we do that. I'm more concerned about. I'm not very, very familiar with Brazil, I must admit. But I'm looking into Europe. And Europe has a strong pull now towards investing, right? And also they want to have a single financial market, right? Exactly for that purpose. So everybody has got an incentive to invest into Europe. And at the moment, we are spectators. We are at the audience. We don't participate in these discussions.
Well, let's hope we get to you. Thank you. You wanted to respond to this?
Let's say what I see is it's extremely difficult here in Switzerland with the culture to find investment. So with the startups we have, it's mainly bigger companies who are interested in these technologies, and they are willing to give money into these companies. But to raise some additional money is sometimes extremely difficult. And also if we have quite good number of delighting ideas for startups, we just see that these companies suffer to get money. So if there is something which can be changed, this would really help.
So I'm a big fan of amplifying the positive. And so I also believe that there must be examples within this wonderful small country where this is being successful. Right? It's not just a negative, so there has to be. Can you give us one example of where it's been really successful in your eyes, from a VC standpoint or from, yeah?
I can give one example. This was one of the projects which started with one of the students' project with the ETH. And the task of this was to build a construction car with batteries, because it was early times at this time, and they have quite special requirements because they have a big power density. Mm-hmm. And so out of this startup, then the people who were in this team continued with this project itself. And then some construction companies went in and invested money in this one. And now 5 years later, this turned into an own company with more than 20 people, and is now an own company, profitable. And this is one of the examples where it really works, where there is a good idea and an early involvement of companies believing in this technology and then also investing in this technology.
I think these excuse me, for me, these are the kinds of stories which we need to amplify more and more and more, so one believes in that vector of movement. And I see, Joël, you've got the mic in your hand.
I would like to bring some facts, not anecdotes. So in 2022, 1.2 billion Swiss francs venture capital was invested in only ETH startups.
1.2 billion?
1.2 billion. For entire Switzerland, 3 billion. Now you scale 30, you get the US, then you can start to compare. So there are things happening, okay? Yep. And there are plenty of companies who grow. But the main issue we have are not the first or the second round. This is when you get the 100 million investment and so on. This is almost exclusively foreign investment. Mm-hmm. And here there are discussions with Guy Parmelin to see how we can do exactly what you said, relax the conditions so that there is an incentive for investors to go into that. But you know the rhythm of the Swiss politics, so I don't know when that will happen. The other thing is, I feel the students of ETH, they want more of this. You said it. The young people, they want more of this. And this is based mainly on these examples. They see these examples. And so something is happening.
That's great. You want to carry on this comment? I mean, one question we're going to roll in.
One addition to that. Don't forget about the incredible success story of Switzerland in the blockchain space and the amount of money which was raised out of Switzerland since 2015. These numbers were never seen before in Europe, and that was out of Switzerland. And I'm from Liechtenstein, so I can say that.
So can
You're
I say
associated,
right?
I mean,
somehow. Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Because this is really one, and in my view, the only instance where Switzerland took a strategic approach to regulation. Someone convinced a federal chancellor to say, well, we are going to be a leader in blockchain, and then they made that very simple regulation, and that attracted the investors, and that attracted the entrepreneurs. And that is everything what I'm talking about.
Which is a good example to hold out and to remember. Thank you for bringing that up. And we have a final question over here.
Thank you.
No pressure.
It's always interesting as a French or German to listen to Swiss complain. I mean, what should we say? And unfortunately, the single market union is a 15-year-old discussion, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. But my question is trying to connect the dot between the strategic approach. I liked very much what you said, Judith, and and the fact that you have academic liberty and technological sovereignty. What have you found in Switzerland as a way to basically make policymakers understand where science and technology is going? Because we know today that if you only rely on outside advisor, remember what happened with the scientific councils during the COVID, you have this tension between policy and science. Science cannot do policy because they're not elected for that, and policymakers need to have increasingly an understanding. How do you ramp up the capacity? The AI Act is a good example. You have a couple of MEPs who understand AI. Most of the people regulating they don't know the difference between big data and neural networks, for example. I mean, it will increasingly be like that on materials, on quantum. Have you found a magic formula for that?
How do we make that bridge happen? Anyone want to answer that one?
Tensions, schmensions. Really, why are we ever all afraid of tensions? Of course there are tensions, but it's legitimate for science to have an opinion and to bring it forward. So don't be afraid of politics. I mean, they have to be afraid because they are under-educated. So really, no. I mean, sorry, we're between us, right? Well, no press here. No, I mean, so what's the point about tensions? And
communication, yeah.
I mean, mainly, it's not even a success of ours. I believe that the science itself and people like Joel and Mike who are present here do a lot of the work, really, networks, and that really work very close with administration and with federation to point out the value of science for our country and as the only resource that we have. But at the end of the day, we all have to work together, and I really hope that that's what we're doing as best as we can.
That's great, thank you. And I think that is a great point to end on for right now, which is how we communicate with each other in the different professions, the different strata, the different roles within our society, how we tell the stories which are relevant to every citizen, how we tell the stories that are relevant to parliamentarians, to the man, the woman, that they on the ground outside, so they see the role of science in their lives and how important it is in their lives. I think that's important. That's why we're here in the House of Switzerland having these conversations. So I would like to thank the three of you for making time in your very busy schedules to come and share your wisdom with us. And I would like to thank you, all of you, for choosing to be here today. It's a pleasure to have you here and a privilege for ETH and the Swiss Federation to have you here. We now have, before we say thank you, we have a little bit of lunch, and you're welcome to stay for another hour. And at that point, we will be asked to leave because there's another session coming afterwards, which you have to set. So with that, let us say thank you to our panel for a great job. Really great.